Hi, my name is Bianca Pashola. I'm the COO of SIX, and welcome to the Asante Gold Live Investor Summit. I'd like to start today by introducing our presenter, Douglas MacQuarrie, President and CEO of Asante Gold. To kick things off, Douglas will be telling the company story, and then we'll be accepting questions. You can submit your questions in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, without further ado, take it away, Douglas.
Yes, thank you, Bianca. Thank you so much for hosting our second webinar. The purpose of this webinar is just to update all our shareholders and interested parties of what's changed in the last 5 months since February. Obviously, the gold market is booming, and the junior equity stocks are beginning to follow along. So we put together a small presentation of some slides that sort of back up the bull gold market as we did on the last one. And then we just move into Asante's projects. And without further ado, let's get going on the slides here. Okay, so here's our webinar presentation. It's on the website at the moment. And the title is Got Gold, Get Asante Gold. The title really says it all. We're in a bull gold market, and so we hope you've got your gold bullion stashed away in wherever you think is the correct place for it. Real gold bullion, there is no substitute for it. But once you've got your gold investment to ensure your financial assets through turbulent times, which I believe we're in, a part of your gold should be in the junior golds. And I say that because obviously it's gold, and B, because they're hugely leveraged. We're coming off a terrible bear market that lasted 6 years. The major indices, the junior indices, are trading. Well, they traded down to 20% of their values in 2012. Maybe they're at 30% now. So there's a 70% gain just to get back to normal. Let's start with the first slide here. Okay, here's our forward-looking statement, the usual disclaimer. Please take time to read that at your leisure. Okay, sorry, I've got to move this. Okay, I hope everybody can see that okay. This is a statement from Ron Sterfeli at Incrementum in Gold We Trust, the 2016 report. And I think most people know all of the bullet points on the left. And but the key one there is that gold is reciprocally related to the monetary system. If the monetary system is stressed, gold goes up. And that's just a really good way to hedge your finances. Next slide. Since our last webinar, I believe gold's around 1930 at the moment. I didn't check it in the last few minutes, but we're getting $50 and $100 day up days, which really hasn't occurred for quite a while. And that's telling us that the system is incredibly stressed. Our share price is up 100% since February, from 4 cents to today at 8 cents. And so the percentage gains are phenomenal. I'm going to give a small update on our field work, and then we're going to, as Bianca said, go into some questions and answers. But the point, if you look at the bullets on the right, most of the talking heads say that the COVID-19 pandemic, that gold is up because of that. Well, that's possibly true, but I don't know if any of you caught I've got a link here to a U.S. government speech given by Mike Pompeo just a couple of days ago on U.S. policy on China. And I think everybody ought to read that. Because if you look back 6 months when the U.S., China bickering started to heat up, that's when gold started to heat up. So we believe the underlying basis of this current gold spiking is international geopolitical issues. U.S. is number one, China is number two. So when those two get into flinging mud pies at each other, gold, I think, is a safe haven. So please take 5 minutes to read that. Gold juniors are finally, the first money that comes into gold goes into the majors. After that, it goes into the ETFs. Then it goes down to the mid caps. So this all started about a year ago. Now it's starting to come into the juniors. So I think the juniors is the place to be. We haven't had a lot of money to do much field work. We have been doing some 3D modeling, and that's turned out very well. We'll show a video later of results that show that our ore body, the host, the mineral, the geology that hosts our ore body goes down at least 2.5, perhaps 3 kilometers. And please try to, by all means, get your questions in, and we'll try to get to those as soon as we can. Here's a quick slide. I've only got a few slides here. This one's from Macquarie and Company, and it just shows an absolute 0.94 negative correlation between the price of gold in orange and the U.S. 10-year treasuries inverted. So it's a 94 negative correlation. That's about as good as it gets. Weak yield on the world reserve currency means why own it? Gold is far better place to be. That's what that chart says, and you can see where it started in near the end of 2018. Next slide. This is a chart from the excellent incrementum report of the cycles that investors go through. And in our last webinar, we were down here, junior gold, February 2020, where we'd come out of the bottom and gold market was starting to improve. We were at the relief stage. We've now gone to the optimism stage, July 2020. And then that goes on to excitement, thrill, euphoria. And then the cycle starts all over again. According to past cycles, this part of the cycle should be 2 to 3 years. So there's a lot of room on the upside. Next slide. This is a chart of the gold price adjusted for inflation. So the blue line is the nominal price, US dollars on the left axis. And the gold chart, again, and this chart is from Capital Light Macquarie and Company. You'll see the big spike in November 1979, 1980 related to geopolitical events. So you basically had a typical cyclical high in gold, but on top of it, a geopolitical crisis. And, this is the same type of setup I think we're coming into right now. We've got all the cycles pointing to a gold cyclical high. And at the same time, we have saber rattling going on between two of the world's largest nations, both nuclear powers. So it's a very stressed time. Next slide. This is the famous Big Mac chart. It's by The Economist. And basically, it's looking at the price of a Big Mac in all these different countries. So basically, United States, the Big Mac costs what it costs. In Canada, it's 10% cheaper, euro, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Malaysia, it's 60% cheaper. So I don't know, if you average this out, it looks like the US dollar is, based on Big Macs, is about 20 or 30% overvalued as we speak today. Except for Switzerland, which for some reason it seems to be undervalued. Something to do with their central bank's transactions to keep the Swiss franc at a level to keep their exports alive. So what this is really saying is if the US dollar is overvalued, gold is undervalued, because gold is quoted in US dollars. Next slide. There's the central bank buying. You can see as of 2008, central banks have been net positive buyers. Obviously, the more gold that central banks buy, they have to buy it with something. They're probably de-dollarizing. They're diversifying their reserves. And this seems to want to continue. Okay, that's enough charts. So going forward, our major task in Asante is to find 25 million US dollars to put Kubi into production. Obviously, at $1,200 gold, Kubi's margins for a small underground mine were not particularly large. But at $1,900 gold, we believe we've got a really good mining margin. And so we expect, hopefully in the not too distant future, to secure that financing. And we want to do it in a non-dilutive way as possible. So a gold forward, project-backed debt, or a joint venture. And obviously, when we have a signed binding term sheet, we'll certainly release that via news release. So until we've got that, we'll just keep entertaining new groups and signing CAs, and hopefully we got some news on that shortly. We want to put Kubi into production as a green, sustainable mine. We can power the whole mine with a 4 megawatt 4 megawatt solar plant. We could do that. We could finance that off balance sheet. And so we wouldn't have any diesel. We're thinking of using toll milling, so there'll be no cyanide on site. There are 5 mills within 150 kilometers of the site, good roads, we have power right to the site. So essentially, after financing, we're ready to start doing the portal and driving the decline. From there, we would like to go on to a resource to reserve underground drilling program to prove up the reserves. We can then do a final mining plan and apply for a full mining permit. So that's the plan, all subject to financing. Last point here, I've worked in Ghana for 23 years. My advisors and myself have found quite a bit of gold, drilled out a lot of reserves. We think there's lots more to find in Ghana. And once we get the cash flow from Kubi, we will start aggressive exploration to find something bigger. A few charts on the other projects of Asante. Quick chart on Ghana. It's a very stable British common law country. Their biggest industry is gold mining. They've got most of the majors are there: Goldfields, Anglo, Newmont, Kinross, Golden Star, Perseus. There's Galliano Gold. So lots of big companies think it's a fine place to work, and so do we. There's very few juniors in Ghana, which is good for us. The reason Ghana has so much gold is because of continental scale structures. Big structures means lots of plumbing, gold, and you have a source rock for gold in the Birimian rocks. And you put the two together, it forms big gold deposits. So in this golden triangle, which you can see here on the slide, there's over 220 million ounces of gold in resources and past production. So it's similar to the Carlin trend from a production point of view. Here's a slide on Kubi. Again, we're sourcing $25 million in financing. Estimate 12 to 18 months to complete the portal decline and the resource to reserve definition drilling. We would then be in a position to do some bulk sampling and test shipping to a toll mill to arrange the milling contract. Our target is going to be, we will initially focus our stopes and initial production on higher grade areas. There's lots of, I'll show you a slide shortly that shows the resources, but we're going to target the high grades first. Why not? We got to pay back whatever debt we have, take advantage of this gold window. If we've got extremely high gold prices, get production. We believe the resource is open to depth. We'll talk more on that, but we feel we currently have 100,000 ounces per 100 vertical meters. So if it goes down to 2 kilometers, well, there you go. We have the potential for up to 2 million ounces. Next slide, there's the resource wireframe, and we're looking west. So this is south, this is north. There's the 2 pits. They've been mined out and backfilled to daylight. So this resource goes down, the deepest hole here is about 650 meters down, but there's very few drill holes. So most of this resource is to the 350 meter level. So that's 350,000 ounces down to 350 meters. You can see the bar on the right here. It's a bit small, but that's 12 grams, 10 grams. 6 grams. So everything in purple and orange are plus 6 grams per ton. 6 grams is about $350 ore at the moment. So it's perfectly adequate for underground mining with a good margin. Next slide. Those are 100-meter squares. Next slide, that's just a schematic of there's the current pit backfilled. That's where the portal will be on the east side of the pit. Drive a decline down at minus 15%, 3 different levels. First level at minus 60, minus 120, minus 180 meter levels. And then it would be basically shrinkage mining is what we're planning on doing. The ore body is 2.1 meters wide, 1.5 to up to 6 meters. This section of the ore body over here is considerably thicker, slightly lower grade, but that depends on the gold price. The lease is 20 years. We have 8 years remaining. It's renewable. At the moment, grid power is just a kilometer from the pit. We're going to have to upgrade the road and run the grid power into the pit once we get started here. And after that, we'd like to get a 4 megawatt solar plant up and running. There's many companies in the world that will finance that off balance sheet for a electric sales forward contract. Again, here's just the area. This is southwest Ghana. There's the big Obuasi mine that's been in production for 110 years. We're on a structure that basically connects. This is the Asante shear zone. There are 2 splays. One goes through our Fahiakoba and onto Perseus. The other comes through Kubi and goes down to Tarkwa, etc. So these are major structures. We also have major east-west structures that come from the Perseus area over through Kubi and through our Betanazi. We also have, this was our original IPO property at Fahiakoba, and we'll talk more on that later. And then we have a selection of concessions here that are still in the acquisition stage. They're coming from a company called Gaucknet, which I'm the managing director of, through a deal with Galliano Gold, and it's subject to some ministerial approvals, etc. So as we get these projects, we will do a news release and and start looking at the next stages of exploration on them. But we do have at the moment the keyhole option. It's a tiny little property, but some very exciting results. So here's the keyhole. Again, this is all alluvial mined for the last 20 years by local Galamsey. There's almost no outcrop, but we estimate 800,000 ounces of gold have come over those 20 years out of this alluvium. A couple years ago, we did some geophysics. This is the IP anomaly in red, and so there's sulfides in it. Sulfides, arsenopyrite, shear zone, quartz vein, visible gold. Very Asante Obuasi looking ore, except that it's non-refractory. It's visible, coarse gold. So some of the grades are quite significant. I don't know if you can see these numbers, 27 grams, 11 grams, etc. Old showing here with 10, 20, 30 grams. The widths are a bit disappointing. It's only 1 meter wide. We put about 10 holes in here along the shear. This was only our initial exploration, so we consider this very exciting. The length here is 600-700 meters. We hit gold in every hole. We got some grade. We've got good looking mineralization. So we want to expand our exploration for 2 to 3 kilometers to the north and a couple kilometers to the south. And basically what we're going to look for is a section of the shear or another shear, perhaps cutting at a 30-degree angle to it, that will be dilational. And in a dilational section, you get the same material, it's just a lot thicker. So that'll be our exploration target once we get financed. Our Betanazi option, this is the one east of Kubi. This one is an option from Perseus, Ghana. We did a few initial holes. Basically, we were drilling this shear zone, looking for an Obuasi type shear zone deposit. It isn't there. This was actually a mafic sill. And so, but we did catch some interesting gold any place we cut across the IP. So there were just these 4 drill holes. This IP target has not been drilled. You can see it's moving into where the alluvium is. These little dots are soil samples, and of course, over the alluvium, they mean nothing. And so we're going to expand this IP survey, and then we're going to drill IP targets. And I think this one's going to come up big. There's very extensive alteration. There's cross fractures. There's significant gold. And it's on a major structure that heads due north right to the big Obuasi mine. So it's an exciting project. Again, we need to get in there when we're funded and get exploring. This was our IPO property. It's the Fahiakoba. And again, we put quite a few holes in there. We were funded from our IPO, and our best intersection was 289 grams over half a meter. Unfortunately, we didn't find the big one, but we got where there's smoke, there's probably fire. So we want to get back in here. This shear zone, our property has actually expanded since the original property was somewhere in here. So we've been able to expand the property. And this shear zone, which Perseus has some significant mineralization on, cuts across this corner of the concession. We've done no exploration there. So our next program will be working on here and then looking around this intersection for a highly structurally controlled high-grade target. Again, we just need the funding to do that. So there's the highlights. We're focused in Ghana exclusively. High-grade underground is what we like. We're in Ghana, the safest and largest gold producer in Africa. We're right in the middle of the infrastructure. We're very near-term production, only subject to funding and 12 to 18 months. And we want to get Kubi in production, get to cash flow. Got lots of exploration down dip on Kubi and on our other projects we just talked about. And we've got a very experienced board. Just invited a new director on our board, Karsten Cork from Lima. And we just lost our dear director, Florian, who'd been with us since the IPO. So, yeah. There's the capital structure. Current 66 million shares, warrants, options, fully diluted 81. We have to pay 7 million shares to complete the Kubi transaction, so that would bring it up to 91. We've just announced a private placement, fully subscribed, of 3.5 million units at 5 cents. Market cap 5.5 million at the moment. Enterprise value 8.5 million. We went from a low of 2.5 to a high of 8 cents today. And fairly strong insider and associated shareholder involvement in Kubi, in Asante. So the insiders got an awful lot of skin in the game. Quick shot of our management and directors and advisors to the board, and a contact, and questions and answers. I think that takes us, we're 9:26, so I think we can move on to some questions here. Okay, the first question I've got is this a webinar about gold or the company, from Andreas Schmidt in Germany, good shareholder of ours. And I think it's about both. If you don't believe in gold, why would you buy a gold junior? So, I think it's the very first thing every investor has to decide, unless you're just a speculator. If you're a speculator, anything that's got flashing lights and making noise, you buy. That's not Asante. We believe we're more a Warren Buffett of the juniors. If you buy value and you buy good people, and you're in a good country and you're in a good commodity, you're going to make a lot of money. But there's the unknown is time. And I think the time is in our favor. The next question is from Jens Thanhauser. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a question about, we did it with a company, a Chinese company. We did a deal with about 3 or 4 years ago. They were to put 19.5 million Canadian in to do a joint venture on Kubi. Unfortunately, they ran into some capital control problems out of Beijing and were unable to provide the development money. And so that deal lapsed completely. And they ended up owning 3.8 million shares that they purchased at 18 cents a share. And they're still shareholders.
Hey, Douglas, I'm on the line here, and I have a few questions for you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another one here from Jens also. He asks, why should I keep investing in Asante when all the other explorer and junior miners are running like crazy? What does Asante bring into play?
Okay, well, I think, every company, I mean, the rising tide lifts all boats. So fine. That's number one. Gold is a good place to be. Number two, why Asante? Well, we have a 350,000 ounce resource that by all metrics appears to be have about $1,000 an ounce margin. If you think of it that way, if based on other mines in around the world of this type, if you have $1,000 an ounce margin, and you're producing 50,000 ounces a year, that's $50 million US a year. So I think the answer to your question is if, and that's an if Asante is successful in finding the financing, then we'll be reporting $50 million US in free cash flow within a year. But that's an if.
Makes sense. This is a question from Jonathan Gunter, and he says, where can I buy your shares now, Doug?
Jonathan, it depends which market you're in. We trade on the CSE. That's the most liquid. But we're also on Frankfurt. The symbols are on our webinar there. And the webinar is now on the Asante website under presentations. So most people have no difficulty buying on the CSE. The Frankfurt is there, and it's over the counter in the States. That's maybe a bit of a different market. We're not listed down there. That's just some market makers that are making a market down there. But yep. I see a question here. What's the from Jens Thanhauser again? What's the concrete plan for finding a partner for the $25 million US? Good question. We actually have 84 confidentiality agreements out at this time. We started 3 years ago when gold was only $1,200 an ounce, and we're not prepared to give up 100% of the project. There is so much upside. If we have 2 million ounces there, high grade, then why would we give up too much of the mine? So we've focused on a maximum 50% joint venture to earn interest. And we started looking for 15 million US 3-4 years ago. We're now up to 25 million US because the value of the project has so increased. So the earn-in is going to be 25 million. If we could do a gold loan, that would even be better. That way we keep 100% of the project. Sort of, once you forward sell gold today, you get the 25 million. We deliver back the same amount of gold over 3 years, but obviously at a lower price. The investor then makes the difference between what we sell it for and what we deliver it back at. That's their margin. But after that, they're gone. We own the mine 100%, and that would be debt free. And we'll pay them back from production. So I don't have to go into the market and dilute the shareholders to pay them back. We'll mine the gold at Kubi to pay back the gold forward. That's the plan.
Makes sense. I see another question here as well. This one comes from, I'm sorry in advance if I'm butchering your name, Reinhard. He says, Doug, how can we get more attention and interest in the Asante stock? Volume has been thin, and financing of 25 million at this share price wouldn't be good.
Okay, yeah. Again, we have no intention of doing an equity financing at this price. The dilution would be massive. I'm the largest shareholder, and I can assure you I have zero interest in being diluted down to nothing by some bought deal from some fancy brokerage firm or fund. It makes no sense. So my interests are absolutely in parallel with the other shareholders. Today, a good ounce in the ground in measured category in a good country with infrastructure nearby is probably worth 200 to 250 US dollars per ounce. And indicated is probably worth 50, 60, 70, and a inferred is probably worth 30 or 40. If you average that out on other deposits worldwide, it's probably 150 US dollars an ounce in the ground. That would suggest a 50 or 60 million dollar in the ground valuation. Now, we do not have a formal report on that. That's just based on other deposits in the world, the valuation of other deposits in the world. So a 25 to 30 million dollar earn-in for 50% is the right number. Plus, it's what we need to have sufficient margin, sufficient sustaining capital, and contingency to get Kubi to cash flow. So,
very good. Greg Lee says, thank you for the webinar. Please excuse my ignorance, but what is your take on the supply side? How long do you expect optimism to stay with gold? How long will it take to reach euphoria? All in rough terms, just to hear your opinion.
Okay, well, now we're crystal balling. So all I can give you is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is the US dollar is in trouble. Gold is quoted in US dollars. The US dollar, if the velocity of the US dollar worldwide decreases, which it is massively decreasing right now, they have out of control COVID. It's going to take a year before their economy corrects. World trade. Well, okay. I think U.S. trade is going to drop in half. Well, so what is going to sustain the U.S. dollar? That's the question. Will it come back? Maybe. But in the meantime, in the short time, a 50% retracement in the U.S. dollar wouldn't surprise me, which means gold will double.
There you go.
And the relationship between gold and the U.S. dollar and the interest rates, they're very, very high correlations. So I'd be very, very bullish on gold at this time. And as I say, the gold juniors, Newmont will double. A good junior will go up 10 times. So you need a bit of both. You need gold, you need a major, you need maybe a royalty company, and you need some good juniors. That's how I would diversify.
Makes sense to me. Question here again from Jonathan Gunter. He says, have you tried to sell a stream or royalty to a royalty co in order to increase credibility and attract larger amounts of capital?
I think, we looked at it. We did a net present value on a royalty stream, and it would, because Kubi is a small producer and a small resource in the big picture, the maximum it would give us is 4 or 5 million. So it wouldn't be sufficient to fund the development of the mine, and we're giving away a huge upside that we'd prefer to hold on to. You're supposed to sell assets at the top of a market, not the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Another question here. This time we're looking at Ken. Ken says, would you consider selling the project or the company at the right price? Is this a realistic option?
Okay, absolutely. It's a public company, and somebody wants to offer us, well, should I even mention a number? It'll have 7 figures. Mm-hmm. A very fat 7 figures. If there's 2 million ounces there, but we've only proved 350,000, do we sell 350,000 ounces, or do we say, hey, there's a lot of upside here? I would say at the start of a bull gold market, we'd want to get paid for a lot of those ounces, potential ounces in the ground. So the price tag will be quite a bit higher than I think most people realize. But obviously, we'd entertain any offer. We have to. That's our job.
Makes sense. Another question here. This is Andreas Schmidt. He says, what are the next plans with Asante?
Okay, so the next plans, we're starting a trenching program as soon as the Ghana borders are open. They're currently all shut per the COVID. Every month they say next month. So I'm basically ready, and our crews are ready. We have a all Ghanaian geophysics crew on site at the moment doing a mag survey over 800 meters strike length of the 513 zone. There's a very good correlation between high magnetics and the Cabroic intrusions. So just like the Kubi main zone, the magnetics have been quite effective. Probably should just show this video quickly here. I don't know where our video went, Bianca, but
I can pull
disappeared.
Yeah, here you go.
This video, I should have shown it earlier, but it's the okay. This is the magnetics. It was from an airborne magnetic survey, and then it's called a 3D inversion. So we're looking down. These lines are 1 kilometer apart. In red, you can see the same Kubi resource wireframe from our 43101. And if I stop it right here, you can see the ore, the mineralization is sitting right along the edge of this magnetic body. And we've only drilled it down to we've only drilled it down to 600 meters, but only to 300 meters. You can see the structure easily goes down 2.1 kilometers, and then it offsets and starts again. So this could be a major thrust fault, or we obviously we don't know. It's never been drilled. We'll find out. So likewise, the 513 is similarly related to the contact of a highly magnetic body. Yep. So it's all very exciting. Yeah. So to finish off there, yes, we're doing geophysics. We'll then get in with an excavator. It's this zone cuts right across the main access road, and so it's very easy to get in there. We'll put 6 or 8 trenches, and they're down to 6 meters deep, and assay them. What we're looking for is to ascertain the oxide content above drill intersections. There's been 23 odd holes on the 513 zones with typical intersections 1, 2, 3 meters of 2, 4, 5 grams. So we don't know what this does on surface. It's never been mined, but there may be a surface mining opportunity there should the results be favorable. We'll know that very quickly. Once the borders are open, we'll have the trenching done in 2 weeks, samples done another week. So a month after we start, we'll know and can report on that potential.
Excellent. John Christensen asks, how do I buy IPO shares with warrants?
Okay, well, I think private placement with warrants. Well, basically the company announces various financings. We've been trying to minimize our dilution and just raise sufficient money to keep us current as possible. We've been building up some debt, and it's friendly debt and it's non-interest bearing. Again, the reason behind that was if we had issued shares for all of the debt, we wouldn't have 66 million shares issued today. We'd have 300 million. So we preferred to have friendly debt on the books. Going forward, if our share price is at a more financeable level, we will certainly announce the financing, and then any investor can certainly call up and say they would like to take a piece of it, and we'd have to consider it. Yeah.
Rob Brookley asks, COVID-19 is starting to take a strong hold in Africa, and Ghana has recently recorded new highs in daily cases. Has Asante been affected by COVID-19, and how is the company managing the pandemic?
It's a good question, but we're a very small company, and we really haven't got a lot of staff. They've all been hunkered down, and we've had no reports whatsoever of COVID in all our operations. We understand the president is currently in isolation, whether it's just for his own safety or, he's certainly not in hospital. So, but probably is just for isolation. Yeah, it's a very, very sad pandemic that the whole world is suffering through. Ghana will come out of it like everybody else. I think they only had something like 8,000 cases. I could be wrong on that number. So as countries go, it's got a population of 20 odd million, so it's not that much different than Canada. So we all got our fingers crossed this pandemic will be over soon. We can get back to some semblance of normalcy. Yeah.
Exactly. Raymond asks, this is a question you already answered around the 100% buyout. He does ask, if so, how much Asante would go for. But
well, again, like I say, if you put $150, $200, I mean, if the gold price goes up $200, most, and you have, which we haven't proven yet, an economic deposit, that $200 almost goes right to the bottom line. So if one thinks that resources are worth $150 or $200 today, you add another $200 to it, that's $400 an ounce in the ground. Times 350,000 ounces plus upside on another 500,000. I mean, you can do the math. It's 7 figures, and it's a fat 7 figures. Yeah. That's what I think it's worth.
I agree. Jens asks, can you give us a name for a possible JV partner, or is there already a bank in game for financing?
No, we can't. Like I say, we've got 84 CAs out. Most of those have gone by the board. They were 2 years ago. But I would say there's 5 current groups that are, coming back and asking more questions. And so would it surprise us to have a offer on the table in the next month? It wouldn't surprise us at all.
Reinhardt asks, have you considered offering a gold-denominated bond to shareholders and outsiders?
Yeah, we thought about that a few years ago. Perhaps we should resurrect it.
Yeah.
With the buoyant market we have today. It's a good idea. Thank you.
Jens asks, can you give us some detailed information about SMD mining?
About the SMD?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Okay. Yes. Well, it seems that the SMD is still being commercialized by a company called Novamera Inc. We've got a link to it on our website, to their website. They raised a few $1 million, and they're working through a very diligent schedule to address each of the points necessary to commercialize the program. I don't think there is a timeline. And, we do keep in touch every couple of months. I have a chat with them. It's all looking very good, but I would say they're a year off of perhaps having a commercial. Now, if you think about it, we can go ahead with our plans. We can go ahead and do our decline and our drilling and start mining. And if SMD is commercialized and it's economic, we have 800 meters of strike. So we can basically go off to the northeast, would require some permits, and we could start the SMD there in an area never been mined. So we're certainly very, very interested in it. The economics look spectacular, but it just isn't commercialized yet. So, we can't, gold is moving, we have to move. So if conventional mining will work, let's go do that.
Another question here, Rob Wrigley asks, I realize that Asante's plans are contingent and dependent upon successful financing, but assuming that you do get the needed financing, can you provide a timeline regarding your exploration and possibly a PEA?
Okay, well, from the minute we're financed, we can start road construction, power line extension, portal construction, and then start driving the decline. It's that will be an exploration decline. We don't need a full mining permit to do that. It'll be an exploration decline. We'll get down to the first level, the second level. We'll do the resource to reserve drilling. That's going to take 8 to 10 months to get to that stage. At that point, assuming everything is as planned, it's mining, so I'm sure we'll have some surprises. But the ore body's there. It's got hundreds of drill holes in it. We know it's not refractory. We've done 3 metallurgy tests. So the rocks are competent. We have a mine just to the north of us in the same rocks that goes down 2.5 kilometers. So our VP was the mine manager at that big mine. So we're confident we can perform to get Kubi into production in 12 to 18 months.
Greg Lee says, thanks for the great answers. What are your views on the possibility of U.S. using oil and gold reserves to combat currency devaluation?
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't. Well, how much gold the States has is always, that's being debated for a long time. No audits for I forget how many dozens of years. The reality is, since 1979, the U.S. has not balanced a single budget. Well, I think if I had the reserve currency of the world, I'd prefer it was run by Angela Merkel. Had that that German dogma to actually balance budgets. The U.S. doesn't seem to care because it's the world reserve currency. So unfortunately, there's a lot of dollars being printed, and the velocity of the use of the US dollar is now decreasing massively. World trade problems, etc. I do not think if the velocity of the US dollar slows down that they can maintain the price. And quite possibly they don't want to maintain the price. There's a lot of Americans that need jobs, and unless the US dollar devalues 20, 30, 40%, I don't see how they can compete. So What they can do and what they will do, well, that's in the realm of politics, which I don't know.
Yeah, right there with
Your
you.
guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, exactly. I see that we're coming to the end of questions. So if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to submit them into the chat right now. I'll ask my final question to you, Douglas. What are you most excited about in the next 12 to 16 months?
Oh, I'm excited that we're going to finance Kubi and start construction. And all indications are Kubi is going to be a very nice, economic, high-grade mine. And it'll probably be there for at least the next 20 years. And from the cash flow from that, we don't have to keep going back to the public market and diluting the stock, which means that we can, with $1 or $2 million, be very aggressive explorers. $1 or $2 million a year can find an awful lot of gold. We've been living on about $200,000 a year for the last 5 years, so that's pretty tough. But $2 million a year, we can explore like crazy. Kevin Thompson, advisor on our board, he's anxious to get going, but we have to find a budget. So I'm excited that we can seriously build Asante to being a mid-tier company in Ghana, and it'll start with Kubi, and it'll start with a financing. Yeah.
We're excited for you. That's it for the Q&A period. I'm going to throw it back to you, Douglas, for the final word.
Okay, so look, thanks everybody. I really appreciate everybody dialing in. I'm not the world's greatest presenter, but I think Asante is a quality story. We got really quality people. We're in a quality country, and I think gold is the place to be for the next 3 years. And between you and me, the $25 million we're looking for sounds like a big number when you have a market cap of 5 million Canadian. But in all honesty, it's 2 apartments in New York. We'll find the financing. Thank you. That's all I can say. And when we do, we'll halt the stock, we'll do the news release, and then we'll open the stock. And so people who have shares, well, I think they'll be smiling. So that's look. Hope to do this again in a couple of months. Hope we have some good news. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. Yeah.